Hi Libra, welcome to your week ahead horoscope with me, Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. Quick note, my readings are for your sun, moon and ascendant signs. So whether you're a sun, moon or rising sign Libra, this is for you. And I always advise that you watch all three to get clearer and more complete picture of how they speak to you. With that said, if you are a continued subby, you know Rafi loves you. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to like, share, and if you should so choose and it resonates, hit that subscribe button before we continue. I would like to bless my deck of cards with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity, and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise, and they help you all on your path to your highest vibrational good. So your key to the week is the Judgment card this week, right? So there are big changes all around for you guys. And also, it is fair to say, the Judgment card always brings up something from the past as well, right? So yes, it's that huge advancement that comes up, but there's often a lesson, a connection, an understanding that needs to be assimilated into our lives in some way, shape or form. It's one of the reasons I call this card the blast from the past. Like the Moon card is definitely the past, but the Judgment card tends to bring something that it tends to bring an experience, a connection, something that comes up so that we can finally lay it to rest, basically. And that always precedes massive changes, just like this card does anyway, because it's a grand clearing of the deck. So in some way, shape or form this week, there is a big change coming up. For your actions and options this week, you have the Seven of Cups. All right, so my dear Librans, it is time for you to start streamlining the process. Whatever you have on the table, whatever cards, whatever plates you're spinning in the air, whatever irons in the fire, this week you are going to have to simplify in order to get ahead. If you really want to make that big advancement in your life, you are going to have to take something off the table, basically. It looks like you're trying to do too much. And another thing with the Seven of Cups, this can be sometimes quite confusing energy because it comes up here with the Judgment card. I get the sense that this week it's almost like you're going to try to convince yourself that no, I can definitely do all of this. And there's like a part of you saying, well, actually, if you were saying this to somebody else, you would tell them the same thing. Like this week, you're going to try to convince, you may try to, I'm not telling you what you're doing. You may try to convince yourself that you can do something that you can't, and it's not because you don't have the talent or the skill, it's because there's only one of you. All right, try to bring the focus in. It kind of feels like that thing as well, and lots of gurus say this, but there's one in particular and I've forgotten her name. She very often says, if you sell to everybody, you sell to nobody, right? This week it's try to home in. For your communications and conversations, you've got the Nine of Wands. All right, so not only is there a blast from the past, but this could be a conversation that really highlights an old wound of yours in some way, shape or form. It does feel like as well this week you may find yourself backtracking over a conversation that you had previously and reliving it as a completely different experience. So maybe a boss or a superior or a colleague or even a friend, maybe you have a conversation with them and you're like, we've had this conversation before and I really don't remember it going this way. Someone could highlight something to you this week where you could think, wow, the last time we talked about this, you never mentioned any of this. You never highlighted any of what you're talking about right now. And if that is the case, let it come and then let it go. The reason I say this, for those of you that work for yourselves, I don't know why, but I'm starting there. For those of you that work for yourselves, business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, this Nine of Wands, it sees you currently struggling to do all things. And it looks like someone's highlighting to you, maybe you're spread a little bit too thin. Maybe you're doing too much. Maybe you don't have the capacity to do all of these things at once. And you could be thinking to yourself, hang on a sec, last time we talked about this, I'm sure you told me to go for it. And it's like, okay, yes, maybe they did, but now that they can see that you're struggling, if an outside party can see that you're struggling with something and they're telling you so, take that on board. Don't ignore it for the sake of being stubborn or for the sake of being right. When it comes to those of you that work for somebody else, there's a strong feeling here that you are kind of not being listened to, and you could really feel that this week. Like maybe you think to yourself, you know what, we had this talk last time and I could have sworn that you decided to put something in place to support me, and now all of a sudden it's like it's falling on deaf ears. You might find that that's the case this week, and this is why I say this would be a good week to do what you have to do, but no more. Sometimes when we highlight that disparity to our superiors and they're like, oh wow, okay, so it's you that's been doing all of this extra work that, that just magically seems to be getting done. Yes, it does, and nobody seems to be helping me with that, so I'm not doing it anymore. It could be a very interesting week when it comes to the work this week, I have to say. When it comes to those of you that are retired or no longer working, look, there are challenges here, right? With the Judgment card here, it does suggest that there is a big change or adjustment in the living situation that you're going to have to make. Because you've got the Nine of Wands there, this is you feeling the burden or feeling the strain. And because you've got that Seven of Cups in the actions and options, you might just try to slog through it. Don't do that this week. Find help, reach out for support. It is there if you look. For your money and materials, you've got the Wheel of Fortune. So there is a saving grace of sorts here, but because it comes up with the Seven of Cups, for those of you that are gamblers, this ain't the week for it. You could wind up you could end up losing more. As the song goes, everybody knows that the dice are loaded, right? Meaning the house always wins. This is not a good week for any form of financial gamble based on these cards alone, and especially with that Seven of Cups above the Wheel of Fortune. Especially if someone comes to you with a get rich quick scheme, or if you give me this amount I can bring you this much back. You probably won't get any of it back based on these cards. This is not the week to invest in something, especially if it's not a harebrained scheme or it's not something that you've thoroughly researched, that you know a lot about. It's just not the week for it. Now, outside of that, when it comes to your money, your finances and your resources, there is support there for you. It does look like there's a little boost here, or certainly maybe something is being covered that you hadn't realized. So maybe, a friend or a family member helps out with a bill. Maybe they offer you some sort of support. Again, if this is the support that you need and it's on offer, take it. There's a reason it's coming up. When it comes to your physical health and vitality, I actually like this card for health, because it suggests that by making a routine out of life, it can and will improve. So your physical health and vitality is definitely there. It looks more like your mental anguish and exhaustion are probably going to be more evident than anything else. And then when it comes to your home and environment, some of you are either looking to change the home or do something to the home. If you have a friend or a friend of a friend, or that person's brother-in-law or whatever, that's like, yeah, I can build you a new conservatory and I can do it for like a really small price or whatever, don't do it. You will end up paying through the nose to have it corrected at a later date. Please think about it. All right. And then when it comes to your love and relationships, you have the Hermit card. This is right underneath the Nine of Wands. There is a sense of loneliness here. There is a sense of challenge and hardship, I have to say. I'm really sorry. I wish I could have given you brighter and better news. There are some challenges here. And, for those of you that are single, maybe you're feeling really lonely this week. Usually the Hermit card doesn't represent that, but with the Nine of Wands, definitely a possibility. For those of you that are in relationships and partnerships, maybe there is that feeling of, what, I may as well be on my own because you don't seem to be hearing a word that I'm saying. Not necessarily, what's the thing that I want to say? Not necessarily a bad thing to spend so much time on your own while you're in a relationship, because sometimes the absence makes the heart grow fonder, as they say, and sometimes it gives you a chance to figure out, if it's not this, if this isn't actually what I want, what would I prefer instead? This could be a really good week for soul searching like that. With that said, I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. I truly hope you have an easier week than I've kind of laid out for you in the cards. And if not, I hope that it is smooth and fast. With that said, I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.